I've gone over in length about all the positives about living here in beautiful St. Augustine and in Florida in general. So I'm going to go over some of the negatives, and that's going to cover the wildlife, to the weather, to the politics here around Mass. And we're going to get after it right now. What's up everybody, this is Thomas with Keller Williams here in St. Augustine, Florida. And if you're looking for everything you need to know about eating, working, sleeping, and the negatives that you should know before moving to Florida, then this is the channel for you. So go ahead and tap that subscribe button below, like the video, and comment if you have any additional questions about the negatives of living in Florida. Like I said before, we've got videos coming out every single week. So make sure you subscribe so that you stay in the know about what's going on here in our beautiful town. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, whether that's a call, a text, or an email. It goes directly to my cell phone. I'm the guy answering it. So whether it's a call, text, or email, I'm here for you. The first negative that I wanted to talk about, which is blaringly obvious about our state here in Florida, is the weather. So there's going to be summers where it is intensely hot, where they have heat advisories, and you really shouldn't leave outdoors. If you're elderly or if you have any problems getting around, just because the heat really can take a lot out of you in a short amount of time. Accompanied with that heat of 95 degrees during the summer for 3 months or so, definitely in July and August, and you're going to see the hottest temperatures at that point. It's going to be very hot, accompanied with 100% humidity. So that's a lot different from maybe if you're from Arizona or California, where it's very, very dry. Here it is very humid, so it's almost like you're drinking the air around you. So it's a little bit thicker, a little bit harder to breathe than the drier areas. So with that humidity, it just makes you instantly hot, and you're sweating almost instantly. It's like a sauna right when you walk outside. I actually use the sauna at the gym, and people that live here in Florida, like, what are you doing? Just go sit in your garage and you'll be fine. You'll sweat it out. And it's 100% true. It gets so hot here during the summer, and that is one thing to be aware of before moving to Florida. Now, living in Florida, it kind of comes with the territory of living here is flooding. All of Florida is in a flood zone for the most part. Whether you're in a good flood zone or bad flood zone, the main flood zone that you want to be in is flood zone X, which means that you don't have to pay flood insurance, and then anything above that you would have to pay flood insurance. So if you're looking to live on the beach, on the water, you should expect to pay flood insurance probably over $1,000 a year, if not more, 2 to 3 times that amount, depending on the age of the home and your flood risk. But that is one major thing that happens here. Downtown St. Augustine, if it rains, the streets are, 400 years old, 500 years old. So they didn't have the best drainage system back there. So when it rains, and it will rain hard, there will be flooding in the streets down there. And that's a regular occurrence. In terms of if you live on the ocean, you should just expect to be flooded at some point, because you're kind of messing with Mother Nature at that point. It's going to happen. There is going to be a torrential downpour with a lot of rain. So if you're living beachside and you are steps to the ocean, that just comes with the territory. So that is something to expect. Also, another thing that comes with the territory here in Florida with the weather is going to be the hurricanes. That is something that you can't get around. We get hit with hurricanes all the time, but most of them are actually pretty mild. We did get hit with Hurricane Matthew here in the St. Augustine area about 5-6 years ago, and that did some significant damage. There was flooding. Some restaurants need to be renovated. So things like that do happen, and you just have to prepare for it the best that you can. But most of the hurricanes are actually pretty mild. It's going to be rain for several days. The wind speed up here in northern Florida is going to be on average with a hurricane around 110 miles per hour. So the building code is a little bit different than South Florida, where the winds can reach 150 miles per hour plus on average. So it's just a little bit different. I think also here on the East Coast, we've been really, really lucky, knock on some wood over here, just because I think the Gulf just gets hit a lot more than we do. And almost anytime something comes towards St. Augustine, it goes inland before St. Augustine as it's heading north, or it bounces out to the water and goes and hits South Carolina or somewhere further up the coast. So I feel like we've been really lucky here, and hopefully that continues. The second negative that it kind of follows up with hurricanes here is going to be power outages. These things happen when you live in an area with high wind speed and also a little bit older infrastructure. When I was a kid, the longest that I've been without power is going to be about a week. Now, this was in the 90s and things were a lot different then. Most of the power lines are run above ground at that point. So it's just completely changed. Now a lot of the power lines are run underground in most of the communities. So if a power outage does happen, it's in a localized area where like a telephone pole or something like that fell down and knocked down an electrical wire, or maybe a tree branch fell on something. So now they're getting things up much, much quicker, especially with how the news works. A lot of times if we do have a disaster here where power outages are happening, they'll recruit from other areas to come and help out so that it gets done pretty quickly when something like that happens. As of recently, I think during Hurricane Matthew, we lost power for one day. I was living at Orange Park at the time, and the power was back on within 24 hours. So it was pretty quick. It is kind of inconvenient if you don't have like a laptop and a movie loaded on it. It does get a little bit boring without your Wi-Fi, but it is something that happens when the hurricanes are in town. I was recently just speaking to someone from California, and they were telling me how rolling blackouts are just kind of a normal thing that's based on their infrastructure. Here we, at least in northeastern Florida, I have not ever experienced anything like that, and that's not something that happens. The power outages are normally because of a natural disaster. The third negative, and this is a bigger thing for me than it is for most people, is that Florida is really flat. I was born in New York and I grew up in a couple of different areas. I lived here primarily, but I did also go to school in Pennsylvania. I lived in Jersey for a little bit of time, and I lived in New York, of course. And I know what mountains are, I know what skyscrapers are. It's just something very beautiful off in the distance that is just massive in scale comparatively to you, and really makes you, realize yourself in this huge world. In Florida, it's just completely flat, so they just still have beautiful scenery and cotton candy skies and beautiful marshland and all of that, but it's just completely different. You don't have the towering skyscrapers of the city, whether that's Philadelphia or New York City. You don't have the rolling hills and the mountains of the Adirondacks and the changing of the leaves. That's just not happening here. It's all very, very flat. So there's no rolling hills. You're just going to see like scenic intercoastal views and oceans. So it's kind of a trade-off. I said that to someone from Denver, and he was like, well, you got the ocean, so you're not doing too bad. And that's very true. So, it's a give and take situation. The fourth negative is going to be allergies. Now, we live in a subtropical climate here, so it is hot and humid a good part of the year. And when trees mature and start flowering, it really just depends on how hot it gets right after it gets cold here. I mean, the coldest it gets is probably like 40 degrees at night. During the day, it's normally like 75 during the winter. So our spring could really start at January. It could start as early as December. It could start in February, March. But any of those times really is when allergies could start, or it could be a false start and gets cold again. So you get a couple waves of it. Luckily myself, I don't have allergies, but my fiance, she definitely has some bad allergies. I swear to God, she's allergic to everything. She thought she was allergic to dogs, but thankfully she's not, and she's the person that sleeps with the dog now and is attached to the hip to the dog, which I love, but she's allergic to everything else. So whenever allergies are high, I'm the first person to know it because she's complaining about it. So they can be bad and seasonal depending on what you're allergic to, can hit you throughout the entire year. So something to keep in mind. The fifth negative thing on our list is going to be the sun and the UV rays. Now that kind of is grouped with the weather and the hurricanes, but it's a little bit separate because this can hit you at any time throughout the year. The sun and the UV rays are some of the highest here in Florida, and we actually have a higher rate of melanoma comparatively to a lot of other states. Coming from myself, I'm very fair skinned. If I go out into the sun for about 30 minutes, I'm going to look like a lobster. So I need to apply sunscreen about every 30 minutes to an hour in order to make sure that I don't burn. I can get like a little base freckle, I don't really have that kind of skin that tans, but that's the best I'm going to do. So I need to wear sunscreen a ton. There are actually some instances where I get like a little sun rash right here when I'm out in the sun too long without putting some sunscreen on, and it can be very annoying. So that is something to be aware of while moving here. If you do have any skin issues, especially when it is related to UV rays in the sun, it's super important to know that you need to wear sunscreen all the time, because even when it's cloudy, the UV rays can still get you here because they are very, very high. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you gained a little bit of value and a little bit of insight into the negatives about moving to Florida. If you did, please do me that solid and tap that subscribe button below, like the video, and comment if you have any additional questions about the negative things about here in St. Augustine or Florida. Like I said before, we've got videos coming out every single week, so make sure you subscribe so that you stay in the know about everything going on here in our beautiful town. The sixth negative I wanted to talk about is going to be that people just don't wear masks. Whether you love DeSantis or you hate him, our state has kind of become the poster child for experimenting of what's going to happen here. And I'm not saying it's positive or negative. For myself, I'm vaccinated. I don't wear a mask anywhere I go. But some people could view that as a danger to themselves and their health. Here in Florida, probably, if I'm just throwing out a random statistic, 80% of people don't wear their mask going anywhere. If you're going to a restaurant, no one's putting on their mask to go be sat down and then take off their mask to eat. It's just not happening here. So whether you see that as a good thing or a bad thing, that's definitely happening here in Florida, where the masks are kind of pushed off to the side and not a lot of people wear them. Does anyone care that you're wearing a mask? If you are, no one's giving you any problems about it. I'd like to point out that Florida has its population over 50% vaccinated, including myself, and we all just want things to go back to normal, back to the way they were before everything happened with COVID, like everyone else. Funny, actually, when shutdowns happened last year because of COVID, Duval County actually shut their beaches down. You weren't allowed to go really outside at that point. St. Johns County was completely different. They allowed you to go at any nature trail you wanted to, no mask required. And you should have seen the county line between St. Johns County and Duval County, because anyone that lived in Duval County just went to St. Johns County to go to the beach right at the county line. So it was just like a straight line right from the beach, and people were lined up right there just trying to be in the right side of the law. The seventh thing on our list of the negatives about Florida is going to be the tourism and also the part-timers. Now, Florida thrives off of tourism, whether you're in Miami, Orlando, Key West, or St. Augustine, or Tampa. All of it is based off of a tourism industry. So if you are planning to live here, relocate here, you need to realize that there's also waves of people throughout the entire year that are coming and hanging out in your beautiful town. That may be completely different from where you're from, where people just live there and hang out there. But here in St. Augustine especially, we thrive off of tourism. So if you are moving to the downtown area, to St. Augustine Beach, this is something that you have to be aware of, because you may not have a neighbor next door. It may be an Airbnb where there's nightly rentals or weekly rentals. Or you may be actually have a neighbor that's a snowbird. My neighbor right over here, they're from Astoria, so we hit it off like that. And they only come down 2 weeks out of the year, so they let me park in their driveway the entire time they're not here. I love them. They're the best neighbors I ever had. They're only here 2 times a year, and they also let me park in their driveway the rest of the time. So that's the best situation for me. The eighth negative about living in Florida is going to be the wildlife. We don't have any lions or tigers, but we definitely have bears, we have panthers, we have bobcats, we got gators, we got mosquitoes. What else am I missing? We got snakes. We got all the type of insects and bugs and frogs and lizards and all of that. We have all the type of wildlife here. So if you're worried about something like that, then maybe Florida isn't the place for you, because we do have all of those animals. Now, speaking from experience, I've lived here for a good bit of time. I've only seen about 3 gators in the wild, and maybe they were about 3 feet long. One of those gators, my friend's dad actually caught, and they're pretty well off family here. They're actually from Long Island, and he caught it, and it's about 3 feet long, and he put it in his son's bathtub for 2 days. And it's like, we went in there, and it's like, every time you got close to the door, you hear it hissing. And that's actually the closest I've ever been to a gator, and that's the 3rd gator I've ever seen, in terms of me living here. But that is something to consider if you are, an outdoorsman. You do like to be outside. This is something that is out there. You do have mosquitoes. You do have, poisonous snakes in the water. You do have gators that are out there as well. So all things to consider. Honestly though, in most developed areas, you're not going to see any of this. I mean, I know there's bears in Florida. I know there's the Florida black panther. I've never seen any one of those things. I'm not a hunter or anything, so I'm not like actively in the woods all the time, or at least not in an area that's not very populated. So they're definitely here, but you're not going to run into them if you're living in a populated area like Miami or St. Augustine or Jacksonville. Just not going to be very common. The ninth thing about Florida that you need to know before moving here that's super negative is that the insurance costs a little bit more than everywhere else. And why is that? Well, a quick Google search allowed me to find out that it's because Florida has the highest rate of uninsured motorists, and also because we have extreme weather. So that makes a lot of sense. As a kid, I remember I lived in an apartment complex and this big storm came through it, and then a log fell in someone's car, completely trashed the car, and also kind of a little neighborhood corner there. But that's something to be aware of. So car insurance is a little more expensive. If you have a home that's in a flood zone, you do have to be considerate of flood insurance if you are financing the property. And that can be, depending on the age of the home, it's going to be more expensive if it is an older home, depending on the modes of construction, also what flood zone you're in. So I'd expect easily to pay over $1,000. I do have someone who did new construction just recently, and they were quoted their flood insurance should be around $1,300 for the year, but that's also a new construction home. So completely different for every single home. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you gained a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of value out of this video, please do me that solid and tap that subscribe button below, like the video, and comment if you have any additional questions about anything going on here in St. Augustine. Like I've said before, we've got videos coming out every single week, so make sure you subscribe so that you stay in the know about everything going on here in our beautiful town. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, whether that's a call, a text, or an email. It goes directly to my cell phone. I'm the guy answering it, so whether it's a call, text, or email, I'm here for you.